when things start getting hard, it's going to be difficult to stay motivated. And so you can't just be relying on motivation. Well, hey, friends, welcome back to the podcast. Happy 2025. I'm not exactly sure where this podcast episode will fall in the lineup. It could be our first one in January. I don't even know. The truth is, I don't have anything to do with like the scheduling of the podcast, if that makes sense. I stay in my lane, meaning I like to inspire and teach and talk. But if I have to be the one that like schedules all the things, it will get so messed up, you guys. You would never even get a podcast. I would absolutely, since the second I started this 6 years ago, because I have been podcasting for over 6 years now, I have always had somebody else do all the techie things. They load it for me, they schedule it, they do all the editing. And so thank you so much for my podcast team. But it's because of them. You guys get this on a regular basis. So I'm guessing you're going to get this the first part of January-ish. Okay. And it's perfect for the beginning of the year because we're talking today about how I just do not think that you need motivation to grow a business, to meet some of your goals. I think so many people are waiting for motivation and then are seriously disappointed when motivation isn't there. And so we're actually going to be discussing like the difference between motivation and discipline and which one that you need, and which one is going to be the difference maker. I get DMs, on occasion. They're like, Jennifer, how do I stay, super motivated when my business is slow? For a lot of people, it's been a slower year. And a lot of us in the online space, in the coaching space, have seen this year either things stay stagnant with no increase in sales and revenue or dip backwards. And that's just kind of across the board right now for people in like the coaching and consulting space, I think. And so, it is hard to keep motivated when things are not going the way that you want them to. It's easy to stay motivated, I think, when things are, going peachy and you're just, killing it at all the things. But if you're not, then it gets harder because motivation is waning. I also get people that will say, how do I get motivated to really grow my business in 2025, especially coming off of a hard 2024? And so that's what we're going to talk about on this podcast. The power of your habits, the importance of self-discipline, and how you can stay on track, I think, even when motivation wanes. So, okay, I read this quote, which I'm going to read to you, which I think is really, really good. Motivation will get you started, but discipline keeps you going. And I'm like, ooh, that's so good. That's really, really good. And it's what made me seeing that quote and really diving into the difference between motivation and discipline and really like honing in on what is required and needed from you in order for your business to grow or your life to change or whatever. That's what spurred this podcast into, me making all the notes and now speaking about all the things. So let's talk real quick about the definition of motivation. Okay. According to Webster's dictionary, whatever. So motivation is a feeling or an emotional state that drives action. And so this is why so many, especially, um, hopeful entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs who are trying to scale, this is why they focus so much on motivation because it drives action. And what they're really hoping that happens is they get like an increase in action, sales, growth, whatever. And so they're thinking that motivation is what they need. But it actually isn't, okay? Because like you can be really motivated to lose weight. So you start to go to the gym, but that motivation always, at least for me, it always is quickly, fading. You can be motivated to get out of your day job. So you think, what I'm going to do? I'm going to start a business. I've been listening to Jennifer for years. I'm going to start a business out of my home. And the truth is it's going to get hard and it's going to get probably messy and you're going to hit, a wall where you can only go as far as you can. So then what do you do when motivation is gone? Because again, motivation is a feeling. All right. And so, I think so often, especially this time of year, we watch like all these really inspiring, videos, and especially at the beginning of January, everybody's wanting to get back to the gym and, they're definitely like, feeling motivated because they're watching a lot of content that's in alignment with that. You've also probably heard a lot of business owners talking about setting goals for 2025. Hopefully you listened to my non-goal setting into the year podcast for 2024, where I talked about finishing out the year strong and just tidying up and finishing off and taking care of the things that God told you to do in 2024 before you're rushing on to 2025. Okay. But, this is the time of year when people are setting New Year's resolutions and they're setting like income goals and all the things. And I think that that's great. But the downside to motivation is, friends, that it's fleeting. It's unreliable, especially when things begin to get hard, because it's dependent upon your feelings, and your feelings are fleeting. Your feelings are not facts. We've been talking with our kids about that fact recently, about the fact that feelings are just not facts. They're just not. And so, like, I can feel a certain way about, something Jason says, something one of the kids do. But the truth is like, that's not necessarily fact. That's just how I feel. And we have got to be mature enough to understand that feelings are not facts and that feelings are very fleeting. And so that's why I think motivation, it's dangerous to depend only on that, because I am always like, wanting to get healthier, wanting to stay healthy, wanting to firm things up, drop a few more pounds, whatever. But if I'm just relying on motivation to get me to the gym, it will get me there on occasion, but it's not going to keep me there consistently. It'll start me back to the gym again, which I haven't quit the gym, but it won't keep me going. Does that make sense? When it comes to business, like, when things start getting hard, it's going to be difficult to stay motivated. And so you can't just be relying on motivation. A better thing would be like being motivated by the idea of financial freedom. Like that would be better. That would be a better motivation. But still, even then, those things are very, very fleeting. So then let's talk about discipline, which I know people don't like to talk about, myself included, because the thing with discipline is it sounds just like, what does it sound like? It sounds like work. Discipline sounds like pain, I think sometimes. I imagine like G.I. Jane, that movie G.I. Jane. Like when I think of discipline, I think of somebody just spending all the hours in the gym, you know, when I think about it in terms of like health, they're measuring their food, they're counting their macros. Like that feels really disciplined. They never eat sugar. And I'm like, I don't have that to the degree that I want to in that area. And so I think that sometimes we don't like to talk about discipline. So if you look at the definition though, of discipline, because we're going to talk about it, it's a habit or a practice of consistently taking action regardless of how you feel. Okay. So back to motivation, it was a feeling or emotional state that drives action, but discipline is the habits or practices that you take consistently that take action and then a result happens. Totally different. So, discipline usually needs to be something that's long term. And when you think about like ways you need to be more disciplined, you also need to think in ways that are like sustainable. I tried counting macros for a couple months this year, and the truth was, is it just wasn't a sustainable practice for me. I wanted to be really disciplined in that area, but I couldn't sustain that practice. Does that make sense? Discipline is more reliant on like systems, routines, personal accountability. It relies on those things instead of how you feel. So, when I was being disciplined counting my macros, I was like tracking my numbers. When we're really disciplined here at Team Allwood about tracking revenue and expenses, like, there are systems we have in place, there are routines that we do. We have meetings, we look at numbers on a regular basis. Like it's not based on facts, or it's not based on feelings, it's based on facts. We're looking at data. I always tell people like data don't lie. So if you're like, I feel like I'm overspending in my business, but then you actually like, when you look at the data, then you don't have to worry about your feelings because the data doesn't lie. You actually can see when you're looking at the numbers where and if you're overspending. And then you can be disciplined to fix that. I hope that makes sense. So discipline is going to make sure that you show up and do things, even if you're tired, even if you're uninspired. Discipline is going to make sure that you do things daily, regardless of your mood. Now, I have always said that in the beginning, when you are building a business, I really think that you have got to do something that is focusing on your business every single day, every single day, every single day, every single day. Because otherwise, and by the way, don't comment below if you're here on YouTube, or don't at me if you're posting this on Instagram. Whoa, I've got a dog growling. But if you take Saturday or Sunday as your Sabbath and you need a day of rest, which we're supposed to have a day of rest, like I'm not talking about that, okay? But every other day, because when I work with entrepreneurs who are like, the last couple of weeks, Jen, they've just been so hard. The kids have had Christmas parties at school, and we had all this, stuff going on with family. And now it's the beginning of January, and I need to take down all my Christmas gifts, and I just haven't got around to really, doing much in my business. And I'm like, you know what? Sometimes a couple of days of not focusing on your business turns into a couple of weeks, turns into a couple of months. And it's really difficult to kind of hop back on that bandwagon once you've given yourself some time and some space off of it. So I think that discipline is you're doing something in your business, you're working on something business related every single day, even if you don't feel like it, because discipline doesn't care how you feel. Discipline is you have made a decision, not based on your feelings, to show up and do something regardless of whether or not you want to. Because again, discipline doesn't care how you feel. So both motivation and discipline, they're both tools for action. But, motivation, I think, feels often more like exciting and dramatic. It just feels sexier. And motivation is what most people have in the beginning, especially when they're starting a business, because those beginning stages, they just are more fun. It's when you get to that messy middle of a business. It's when you get to that messy middle of, you're trying to take care of your health and you've hit a plateau or something, that things are way less glamorous. And so discipline, and, it's also very much less glamorous. It's often perceived as being very restricting, I think. I think it's perceived as, it's going to feel bad. It's going to make you enjoy things less. But the truth is sometimes putting practices into place that you can adhere to and stick to just because you're disciplined to do so, that's actually going to bring you so much more freedom in the long run. It's so much more freeing in the long run. And so discipline will often sustain you when your motivation has completely faded. And so I want you to be thinking as we begin 2025 of like some practical ways where you can be more disciplined in your business, where you can be more disciplined in your personal life. Maybe in business, you need to just really start looking at your profit and loss statements every single month. Maybe you need to get a better handle of your expenses and be getting everything into QuickBooks and be really disciplined about making sure you do data entry all the time. Maybe you need to set something up with your bookkeeper so that you're paying your taxes on a quarterly basis instead of waiting till the end of the year and just hoping and praying you don't owe a ton, even though owing a ton is signaling basically that you made a ton. So yeah, you. But there are things I guarantee you that need to be done in your business. And it's just going to probably take you some discipline to get those done. You can break things into smaller chunks. You can create routines. Um, you can, when you become like disciplined to do the things that you say you're going to do, then things like, decision fatigue don't really even play into it because you've already made a prior decision to do what you said you were going to do. Then it doesn't matter all the excuses in the world that you have. Like when you're disciplined to do what you say you're going to do, then you're not reliant on your feelings. And that I think is how some of you are going to get the business that you want in 2025. It's not by being more motivated. It's by becoming more disciplined. It's giving yourself grace when, discipline is hard and you don't do what you say that you want to do, but just continuing to show back up. One time I was talking to my friend Shauna, who is a personal trainer. And she told me, and I actually did a podcast on this. Gosh, I wish now that I had thought of to go and look at the podcast number. But she told me that whenever she's training people, she can always tell the people who are going to be able to achieve a level of fitness and be able to lose weight and keep it off or whatever, based on the fact that when they fall off the wagon, I'm using that in air quotes. So when they have a bad day of eating or a horrible week of eating, like how quickly can they get back on the wagon? How quickly can they, be disciplined enough to go ahead and put down the fork, put down the chicken fettuccine that I was eating last night and pick back up the grilled chicken. And I just thought that that was fascinating. I remember on that same podcast episode, I told Shauna that I used to be a pack-a-day smoker from the time that I was 18 years old to the time I was 30. So for 12 years, I smoked a pack a day, which I know for a lot of you is going to be really, really difficult to believe, but God's been real good to me. So, and I've been really disciplined to not smoke. So there's that. But you could always tell the level of a smoker's addiction and probably related that how difficult it was going to be to quit based on the amount of time between they woke up in the morning and the amount of time they needed to get their first cigarette. So for me, it was within minutes a lot of times that I would have my first cigarette. And so, but it's that like proximity thing. Like if you're going to quit smoking, look at how addicted you are, because that's going to probably tell you how hard it's going to be. And, one way you can tell how hard you're addicted or how bad you're addicted is the amount of time between waking up and first cigarette. And Shauna was like, the way you can figure out, who's going to be able to lose weight and keep weight off is how much time is there in between you fell off the wagon, but you got back on. You will have times when discipline disappoints, when your own discipline is disappointing, and you will fail to focus on business. You will fail to do the hard things. You will fail to do whatever, but give yourself some grace, but then get right back up. Get right back to it. Because that's how a business that can sustain you financially, that can take care of you and your family, that can allow you to make decisions for financial freedom, for time freedom, that's how that's going to be built, is by just getting right back up. And a lot of times discipline is so hard initially, but just remember it takes like what, 21 days, I think, to build a habit. So give yourself some grace, but do not quit. Do not quit. And so as we're beginning 2025, I encourage you to ask the Lord to give you more discipline when it comes to whatever area of your life you're needing it in, whether that's business or in your personal world. Because I've also found that when you're disciplined in one area, you instinctively become more disciplined in others. Like when my eating is tight, turns out that like my online shopping habits are better as well. I'm not shopping as much as I like to. Does that make sense? So like get more disciplined in one area, it will carry over into others. So, as we're beginning the year this year, I just pray that whatever area of your life or your business that you need to become more disciplined in, that God would shine a light on that He would make it obvious to you, and that He would sustain you in your attempts to become more disciplined in that area. I pray that you would focus on the right things. I pray that you would be able to do the things you need to do, even when you don't feel like it. I pray that you wouldn't always believe your feelings. Because, friends, I'm telling you what, if I depended on my feelings to steer my life and my business, man, I would not be where I am right now. I would be way over here somewhere or way over here somewhere. Because our feelings are just not facts. And so, as you're beginning 2025, I'm praying for each of you just for more discipline in your life and in your business, and for you to be able to really see the difference and to make the changes that you need to, because you've become more disciplined. So, I hope that that's helpful. I hope you guys know that I'm always, always rooting for you. I hope you know that if you need a coach who can help you to see what areas you need to be more disciplined in, or help you to get some of the things started in your business. If you've been meaning to get a coach and just haven't, please send me a DM on Instagram, or you can go to equipped360.com and see how you can work with my team and I in any coaching capacity. Equipped360 is our marketing software, but if you go to equipped360.com, you'll see how there are coaching packages on that page. And that's EQUIPT360.com. All right, friends. See you next time. Bye-bye. Dun 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 dun, bum bum ba dum bum, da 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 da. How'd I do, Easton?